I'm Carol Williams, and you're listening to Immigrant Entrepreneurs Making It Happen. In this podcast, we're chatting with immigrant entrepreneurs and peeling back the layers to discover how their unique perspectives influence their business decisions. So kick back, relax, and let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Immigrant Entrepreneurs Making It Happen podcast. I am super excited today to talk to a good friend of mine and another attorney. As an attorney, I hang out with a lot of attorneys. So today on the show, I am so excited to talk to Claudia Revermann. And Claudia has been practicing law in central Minnesota for over 20 years in the areas of estate planning, probate, business, and real estate. Not only is Claudia an attorney, she is a certified public accountant. She is an incredible powerhouse. So prior to practicing law, she was a tax accountant for a large regional accounting firm. And then she decided that that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough for Claudia. So she opened up her own law firm in June of 2015, where her primary focus is to educate and serve her clients with confidence and humbleness so that no one feels less than. That is like the most amazing description of someone in a bio I have ever seen. And knowing Claudia, I know that that is exactly how her clients feel. And she serves her community by being active on board with board membership and volunteer activities. She speaks frequently for community and continuing education events and has a passion for educating people. So Claudia was born in Colombia, which is why she is on this podcast. So we are going to dig in today about being born in Colombia, being an immigrant to the United States, what that has meant for her, how that influences how she runs her business, if it influences how she runs her business at all, and really just kind of dig in with Claudia. So welcome, Claudia. I am so excited to have you here and really dig into this. And I will say, I've known you for a while, for a couple of years now, and had no idea that you were an immigrant. And I was like, what? So I am learning about you, this piece of you, along with our listeners today. So welcome.
Thanks, Carol. That's so interesting you say that, because I don't know that sometimes it's right in my face that I am an immigrant, and then other times I kind of forget about it, but that's a luxury of mine, right? So I was adopted when I was 2 and was naturalized when I was 5. And so I was just plucked out of the big city of Bogota when I was 2 and came and lived in a predominantly German community in central Minnesota. So my life's been, I almost say I have almost as much German blood as I do Colombian because of those experiences growing up.
So do your parents have German descent? Do your adoptive parents have German descent?
Yes. So my dad is 100% German, speaks German and all the things. Yes. And so my mom's a mix of, some Irish and just a mix, French, Canadian, etc. So, but they're white and they have got this little brown girl and I'm lucky about that.
That is culturally such a mix, which I love. How did you, when did you know that you were adopted and from Colombia?
I would say that I've never not known in my memory. So it was always very open that I was adopted. Plus I didn't look like my parents at all.
Okay.
And so on the face of it, it was always like that. And I think that in the community I was raised in, there were really maybe 1 or 2 people around that were of any color. Much less being Latino. And so, I always knew that I was different. There were issues in school and with regard to the kids asking, why is Claudia's skin color different and those types of things. So, yeah.
Interesting. So your parents adopted you. What How has that shaped your entrepreneurial journey or your career, or has it? Do you think it has?
I would say that I am probably not just from having some entrepreneurial spirit. My dad, when I say dad, I'm just my adoptive dad, right? So my dad has owned his own business. He was a CPA as well and had his own practice. And so I kind of grew up in that and watching him work extremely hard. He was very gritty. He grew up as a farm boy and took quite a path and ended up, in my eyes, a mentor and very successful. And so I've always had that, and I've been very privileged to have that. And then just surrounding ourselves too in the community with whether they were lawyers who own their own practice or my dad's clients who had their own businesses. So I've always had that kind of in the back of my head that it's a possibility. But in terms of being an immigrant in that sense, I think that's been more highlighted in my more recent history. And that St. Cloud, the city I'm in, is it's developed a lot since way back when in the 70s. Will date me there. So we have a large East African immigrant population here, as well as a large Latino, whether that's Central or some South America, but Central and Mexico people that have come here. So it's interesting to watch that unfold and also watch people amazing me in terms of owning their own businesses and what they're doing. So it gives me a lot of, I don't know, I don't always identify myself as being an immigrant in that sense, and that how they've already had roots in a completely different country and pulled up and for whatever reason brought them here. And then them just digging in and really wanting to make something happen for not just for their families, but also just for the community of Central Minnesota.
That's really interesting that you've seen your community grow, and you're able to see it from really someone who grew up there from a very young age, right? Like maybe in your mind, sort of all of your life, right? Like in terms of when your memories started to now, and to recognize that there's a thriving immigration population there, like a group of people that, like you said, have just come in and just dug their heels in and just make it work. That's
absolutely. I think of I can think of maybe 2 kids in my school. And I grew up outside, like in a really small town, like I'm talking, like 2,000 people, is where I grew up. And so there were maybe 2 of us. And now there's a meat packing plant, a few of them that are close. And so and also a lot of farmers. So that brings a lot of people for jobs, et cetera. So I was just introduced to a woman by my dad, actually, in that town, and she runs her own bakery, and she's from Mexico. And it's just her energy and her, I feel like I keep going into this grittiness or, the tenacity of just jumping in and creating a spot in that community for her.
Very nice. Very nice. So tell me and tell our listeners, what does your firm do? Who do you serve? Like how are you in your community through your law firm?
Yeah. So again, I should say education is such a key. And so we're not necessarily trying to just reach the super wealthy we'll take all different kinds of net worth people, but our interest is in educating people in an area that can be very, it's just overwhelming, filled with a lot of legalese, of course. I feel like it's similar, like in your practice, Carol, with immigration, they're scared. Ours, they're usually not so scared, other than they want a sense of security with the estate planning of, helping their families through a hard time, those types of things. But we really just are so interested in meeting with people who are curious and dispelling a lot of myths, right? So that's kind of a really fun thing with our job. And when I say I have another attorney with me, and then we have a staff of 3 as well. And so it's fun to watch them thrive and know that we all have that same common core value of educating people.
Nice. So probate, real estate, estate planning, what does that mean to someone? Because I will be honest, as an attorney, I did not know what probate was when I was in law school. I kept hearing words. I was like, well, I don't really know what that is. But when you're given 1,000 pages in law school to read a night, like probate is not something I'm going to go look up and figure it out kind of thing, So what is, like, how do you help people? Like, what is probate? What is estate planning? Like, what does that mean to someone?
Yeah. And I didn't know any of that either, practically speaking, from law school. That's an interesting thing, right? In fact, I had, so we're talking, a lot of wills, trusts, walking them through the court process in a probate. With business or real estate, it might be buying, selling business interests, or dealing with their partners or their other shareholders. I had a client come in yesterday who he found me, tracked me through it. This is not obviously my first law firm experience. So tracked me through a few law firms, and I probably did his trust when I was in my first 6 months of practicing. And so it was so fun. And he tracked me down. We looked at the document. Of course, I cringe inside going, I sure hope this thing was good. But I had a really good mentor. But that was fun to watch him and re-educate him about what the documents he even had in place, see if there were any missing holes, and then just kind of growing with him and seeing what his family had been up to. So from that standpoint, we're drafting the wills, the trusts, if someone does need a probate, which is the court process to designate where your assets would go when you pass away and you don't have joint ownership or have beneficiaries on things. And so we'll take them through that court process and do it in I would say we really try to make it as efficient as possible for people, because people hear probate and they don't know what it is either, maybe, but it sounds super scary.
Yes, it does.
Well, in Florida, it might be more scary, to be honest, than it is in Minnesota. Every state's different, but we try to take that complex thing and go, you know what, it's a lot of paper shuffling to many different people at the right times, but we're going to do it. You don't have to worry about it. So
I like that. I like that you say that when you tell people not to worry about it. I often tell my clients, don't worry until I tell you to. Leave all that to me. Like, if I'm not worried, you shouldn't be worried. So, well,
this might be kind of a generational thing, but I do laugh because my dad, when I was young, he always goes, "Oh, don't worry, pretty little head about that." So I don't apply so much in the 21st century, but it was always cute. We used to laugh about it because there are those things like, we got it. You don't have to worry about it.
Oh my God, I love that. So what initially inspired you to become a business owner? I mean, there are 1,000 other things you could be doing, but being a business owner is tough. Like, there's a lot that goes into this.
Right. And that's what really jazzes me up and gets me excited to go to work every day. And I don't have the Sunday blues. Right. So, but I didn't figure it out necessarily till later. I laugh at, so I'm an only child, and it's not, and I've learned over time, right, it's not just because I can't get along with anyone that I'm a business owner instead of an employee. But I went from this really large accounting firm, maybe 800 employees, and then I went down to a mid-sized law firm, and then I went to a small law firm that had, I joke that it was 4 old guys and me, because the youngest person, I think he was 62-ish at the time, and then it was me, and I was in my 30s. And so, but they let me do whatever, I don't want to say whatever I wanted, but they really just gave me a lot of agency to help improve the firm and those types of things. And also a lot of mentorship in the actual law itself. And so that was my first kind of nibble on what this meant, because of course I made partner and then it took over more of a managing role. And it was so fun. Now those partners had then retired and the firm just became something different than it had been when I joined. And so it was just a perfect opportunity for me then to go, you know what, I've wanted to do this on my own and I'm going to go do it on my own. But I did it on my own. When I say that, literally on my own. And I hadn't for my whole working career really like printed an envelope by myself. So here I sat in this little office and I'm going, well, here we go. We're doing it on our own. And I've had two instances in my life that if you can relate, like the air completely got sucked out of the room. Like you could almost feel the energy just going. And it was when I left my accounting job, really well-paying job. And I was on a good trajectory. And I went to law school, and I remember saying in the law school orientation, and I felt like, what am I doing? The air just sucked out of the room. And then my second was the first day that I opened up my shop, which coincidentally is June 1st. So June 1st is an anniversary date of 9 years. And that day I remember standing in my new office again, just me, and going, oh my gosh, what have I done? I had people rowing with me, right? I had other attorneys in the office rowing with me, and here I was just the only one paddling along. But other than that scared moment, I have never looked back. It was the best thing I ever did for myself, probably for my family too. I have 2 boys and a husband, and I just, it energizes me. I love it.
Nice. So what made you take that leap from accounting to the law? Like that is like when I first met you and we were in a coaching group and someone said, well, we should ask Claudia that because she has this accounting background. And I was like, who on this call has an accounting background? Like who would put themselves through this and then go to a law? What?
I'm a nerd and masochist. I don't know.
So I was from accounting to the law.
Yeah, so I was I did want to be a lawyer when I was 10 first, when I was 10. So I thought I wanted to be a lawyer at whatever that means, right? At 10. But in undergrad, I switched gears and said, I don't think I want to go to school for another 3 years. I don't know if I love this. And so I switched gears. And my dad, of course, had an influence on me. Having his CPA license, said, it's a really good and practical career is accounting. Okay. And which is fine. I'm very neutral about that decision. It meaning I didn't feel pushed to do it. It was something easy to grasp. So I went and worked for an accounting firm and got my CPA license. And then my manager told me, we would love for you to take a deeper dive in education and tax. And so, go and maybe a master's degree or something like that. And I was like, well, I've always wanted to go to law school. I quit and I started law school. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I was, I don't want to say a complete whim, but I joke that it was like a Tuesday. And then on Saturday, I went and took the LSAT and I was like, okay, I guess I'll just go and do this law school thing. And that's why it was a little bit of the sucking the air out of the room going, what did I do? But then I actually, after law school, I went back to the accounting firm and did some forensic accounting work in the world of family law, doing like alimony and marital settlement, dissolution settlements and those types of things. But then I figured I should probably practice law. And so we moved from the Twin Cities back to central Minnesota because we had kids we wanted to raise in this area.
Okay. Nice. So from your accounting career to now your legal career, has there ever been a time where you have sort of stopped and thought about or recognized how being an immigrant has impacted both of those careers?
That's a great question. I would say probably less on how that's impacted, other than I do sometimes along the way I've felt I have to work just harder. Like, I don't want to be that immigrant or that brown person that's not working hard, right? And so so that's slight impact. But otherwise, I feel like more of a responsibility to be impactful.
Okay.
And so, if you see it, you can be it, right? We hear that. And so I try and do some reach out. I had more recently done some work with the Minnesota Society of CPAs and did some mentoring as like an incubator. You can go in there and then meet with Latino business owners and give them advice. Both it was meant for accounting, but because the hats I wear with law, they overlap. So that was kind of fun. It was so fun. And it was one of the most amazing experiences. I get a little emotional just because I think that the idea of being able to sit at this table with these business owners, they were doing some really amazing things with their talents. They just needed to fill that gap. Maybe it was, hey, how does this QuickBooks thing work, right? Or how would I get someone to maybe help manage a person or hire and those types of things? It's fun to have that dialogue. And then also to sit at the table, and I had just a quick moment where I sat there and I saw her hands at the table, pointing at papers, and they were all the same color. And for me, particularly having grown up in this very white community, which I love, but for me, that moment, just to see that similarity was it knocked my socks off.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. Do you find that when you are in that situation and you're in the role of the expert, do you find there to be a moment where you sort of stop and think, or just a second where you're like, wait, how did I get on this side of the table? How did I suddenly become, it seems so sudden, right? How did I become this person that is giving advice that has the answer?
Yeah, that kind of made me think of, so I have found my birth mom, but I don't have a constant contact with her. Meaning we connected once and that was it. And that seems fine for us. But I did see a picture of her on Facebook, doing a little Facebook stalking,
Fair. We've all done it for some reason or another. It's all good.
And she lives in the mountains outside of Bogota. And she's standing there and she's got 2 chickens that she had butchered in her hands, right? Wow. And that moment was like, and it's neither good nor bad. She seemed happy from the picture. It's not that. It's just, what different worlds. How did I get on this side of the table? And not as a power position, more as just, how did I get in this spot? How lucky am I? And it's hard work too. I mean, there's always that, there's
absolutely.
Yeah, all of those things.
Yeah. So speaking of hard work, what have been some significant challenges to business ownership that you've faced? Because I liked, everybody always talks about, oh, my business is so great and everything's wonderful. And, we all like to paint this rosy picture, right? Because we're all supposed to all have it together. But we don't get to a place where we have it all together without the challenges. So I always like to ask, what have been some challenges that you've faced as a business owner?
Well, certainly the biggest challenge was this whole notion of me just doing it by myself. That was hard. My kids were younger at the time, school age, and I'm trying to manage all of that, at the same time as running this firm. And so and then the challenge of, well, then who should I hire? Where do I find this? And trying to find the resources. So I would say probably, and I've heard this, business ownership, it can be so lonely. Because even when you have a team, right? You're nodding.
Oh, yes.
And so that's why I feel so just lucky and blessed, all those words, just for having like you in my circle. Like there's women and men that I've been able to just have just to, ask questions of, see what they've done, learn by their mistakes, me make mistakes, and be able to share that with others. But so probably the whole hiring thing, and I've stumbled. I always laugh that 2022 was the chaotic year of stumbling through that, trying to find the right people for, to fill the seats on the bus, all of that. So that's probably the biggest thing.
That's nice. And, you mentioned, having a group of people, and I always say that none of us has all of the answers. And, you and we know a group of women attorneys. We all keep in touch. And I don't know, I think it was a couple nights ago, I was like, hey, what are y'all doing about this? So that having that community as a business owner, I have found to be such a lifeline.
Absolutely.
To get through the bad days, but also celebrate the good days. When you're the business owner, it's nice to be able to put a win out there with people that really understand what it took to get that win.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're fist pumping in the air with you, going, and you believe it, not just like, oh, I like you and you're the best thing, Claudia. Right. Well, no, really, like we all kind of gather and go, and then also if something's just not working out right, you can reach out. That's so important.
Yeah, that's huge. Like I sometimes light up some of my text messages. I'm like, I need help. What are we doing? And people, like that circle of community, that circle of business owners is always there to help you, which I totally love. I totally love that.
Yes.
So what have been some key successes in this thing called entrepreneurship for you?
Yeah, a moment comes to mind in that while I've been trying to build my team and work more on the business, right, rather than in the business, and really being kind of focusing on what our vision is. I was at a reception type of thing recently, and someone came up to me and say, "Oh, are you the Revermann of Revermann Law?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, I did my estate plan at Revermann." And it was quite a moment for me, because I thought it wasn't like, "Oh, Claudia, you did my plan. Oh, go to see Claudia." It was like a place to go, right? Like an actual building with an office. We're going to Revermann to do it.
It
was
fabulous.
so
I
cool.
love that.
And so that was more of a sign for me, like that our team is doing what we're wanting to do, right? And our messaging is out there, that we are. I've helped develop the team. It's so fun to watch them be eager for it, and of course, I'm always going to be the one that loves this most, right?
Of course,
this is my baby. No one's gonna, no one loves it as much as me. But I feel like stumbling through that 2022 and finally finding a core group of people that seem to really enjoy coming to work and serving clients the way I had envisioned.
Nice. What's next for you and the law firm? What's next?
Well, we have a couple things brewing right now, and so we're going to do a little expansion. Nice. So follow up for more details. But we're really working on fine-tuning processes. I think that it's a constant thing, right? But we're really doing a focus on that. I finally have somebody like kind of my ops person, call her the strategist support. So if I'm the strategist, she's there supporting me to push all these endeavors forward. So I'm really excited about that. And everyone's just sliding in their way. So for a little bit, we want to we've got ideas and we're going to do some growth, but it's slow and steady.
Okay. I always like to, this is always my last question, my last substantive question. What advice would you give to individuals who are immigrants who are either already have their own business or they want to start their own business? What advice would you give them?
Would do it, stick with it, even in the yuck. But mostly ask for help. I think depending on their migration story, they may feel like they've gone through a lot, right? And I'm sure they have, but it's okay to ask for help. And also you can't, just by asking, it might not be that person that has the answer. They might know a person who knows a person who knows a person, or knows a resource. Yeah. So just going back probably to our conversation where we were saying, those people around you and having those supporters, can't forget that, because you can't be alone in this. And learn from other industries. So if you're going to open a food truck, then maybe still go talk to the machinist, right? Because you can get ideas from other industries.
That's really cool. I've not had anyone say learn from other industries. That's very interesting. Yeah, I like that. And I think the business owners across the board, it doesn't matter what you're selling or how you're helping people. I think there are a lot of common threads throughout just being a business owner. It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
So true.
It's really nice. So how can we find you? What's your website? What's your phone number? Are you on social media? Give us all the details. I'm going to put it in the show notes, of course, but tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, probably. I have found that social media for me just diminishes my cognitive abilities. So I've learned that, and someday I'll get over it because I need to get into this entry. But just simply Revermann Law. It's REV as in Victor, ERMANNLAW.com, and you can find all our contact information there and learn a little bit more about us.
Awesome. I like it. Nice, sweet, and simple. Thank you so much, Claudia. This has been, I've known you for years now, and we've never ever talked about any of this, quite honestly.
We're always focused on our firm.
Yeah, exactly.
What process are you doing?
We're always so focused on the business and the law and owning a law firm. And this has been honestly a breath of fresh air. I mean, talking with you is always lovely, but this has been different. This has been really different. So thanks
for for listening to my story. I love it. I think people forget they have a story, right? An origin story. And it helps me to be thoughtful about it too. Thanks so much.
This has been amazing. So thank you for your time and chatting with me, and hopefully our listeners will glean some info and some insight from you as I have. And you and I will talk soon, but thanks so much. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Thank you for listening to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Making It Happen podcast. This is your host, Carol Williams, managing attorney at Williams Immigration, a boutique immigration law firm helping companies and families navigate the U.S. immigration system. To reach me, go to www.clwimmigration.com.